Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I'm really glad you could join us today because we're pulling back the curtain on something big. Technology that's, well, it's rapidly overtaking generative AI. For the past couple of years, right, we've all been focused on these super sophisticated chatbots. But what happens when those chatbots, gain the ability to actually act autonomously in the real world?
That's exactly it. We are talking about the next major generational leap, AI agents. And these are far more than just like smarter large language models. They're really evolving, becoming autonomous decision makers, executors even.
Absolutely. And the insights we're bringing you today, these 8 crucial AI agent trends we think will shape 2026. They come straight from some really detailed research. It was synthesized by our own Beyond Busy Work team. They really dug deep into the data so we can move beyond, just the surface level theory and understand exactly how these agents are starting to take real world action.
Okay, let's unpack this. Right. So to start, let's make sure we're all on the same page. We need to clearly define the difference between what we've been using, like ChatGPT, and what's coming next. Standard generative AI, or Gen AI, that's your current ChatGPT or Claude experience. It's brilliant at conversation analysis, generating content, summarizing things. It's like an intellectual partner.
Okay, so if I ask ChatGPT, say, book a flight to London and order some flowers for my mom, why can't it actually, click the book button or process the payment?
Well, because it operates inside a kind of controlled sandbox, its output is text, right? Not action. AI agents are fundamentally different. They are defined by their capacity for action. They can execute complex multi-step tasks. They interact directly with external third-party systems, think e-commerce sites, airline booking portals, maybe corporate databases. And crucially, they work toward long-term goals with really minimal human oversight. They don't just give you the recipe. They check your pantry, order the missing ingredients, and confirm the delivery time. All by themselves.
That structural change going from just an intellectual partner to an autonomous executor, that sounds like it needs a whole new kind of computational architecture.
It really does, yeah. You move from maybe a single monolithic Gen AI model, which takes one big prompt and gives one big answer, to what we call an agentic architecture. This involves breaking down complex goals into smaller sub-goals, using these iterative loops to test and refine actions, and maintaining a persistent state or like a memory across different interactions. That's the scaffolding you need for true autonomy.
And when you talk about agents achieving those complex, multi-step, maybe long-term goals, that really brings us into a discussion about progress towards AGI, doesn't it? Artificial general intelligence.
It does, yeah, though it's really important we keep the two distinct. AGI is, the ultimate goal. AI with human-level adaptability, capable of learning something from one task and then applying that knowledge to solve completely new, unrelated tasks.
Okay, maybe a simple analogy for you listening is the difference between Gen AI and an agent like the difference between a really specialized calculator and a digital project manager.
That's actually a great way to put it. Yeah, the calculator does narrow, specific things perfectly. That's your Gen AI. The project manager, the agent, it not only does the specific calculations, but also coordinates timelines, delegates tasks, maybe to other systems, and figures out the next steps if there's a roadblock. It's showing a sort of rudimentary form of adaptable problem solving. And that's the key ingredient we need to see for real progress toward AGI. The Agentic framework, because it breaks problems into these adaptable steps, it just gives us a much clearer view of that progression than older models did.
Okay, let's start with where these agents are already making waves, the business world, specifically Trend 1, Agentic team working. This focuses on moving away from that idea of like a single giant AI trying to do everything towards specialized collaborative teams of agents.
This is absolutely one of the most critical shifts.
Yeah.
Businesses found out pretty quickly that trying to build one massive AI brain to manage logistics, marketing, and finance all at once, it's just inefficient. It's brittle. The agentic architecture, it really thrives on specialization and collaboration. So you design maybe dozens of small, hyper-specialized agents. Each one masters just one functional area, but they all share information through what's called a common ontology and a communication protocol.
A common ontology. What does that mean in like practical terms? So someone listening, is it just a shared database?
It's a bit more sophisticated than just a database. The common ontology is like a shared structured language and an understanding of the business domain itself. So for instance, if an inventory agent uses the term gray 4321, the marketing agent knows that refers not just to a product code, but also its specific color, size, availability, maybe even its profit margin, because all that context is baked into this shared ontology. Without that kind of standardization, autonomous collaboration just falls apart pretty quickly.
Right. Let's make this really concrete with that e-commerce workflow we mentioned earlier. It feels like a perfect example of how this complex multi-step coordination, stuff that used to take human teams days or weeks, can now happen almost instantly.
Exactly. So you start with the purchasing and inventory agent. Its specialty, data accuracy and foresight. It's constantly monitoring real-time stock levels. It uses predictive models to forecast future demand based on, say, seasonality or current sales velocity. And it provides this verified data feed on what's actually available.
Okay, and that data then feeds the next agent in line. The listing agent, the content engine.
Right. And this agent's job is all about optimization. It takes that raw data dimensions, material, quantity, and automatically generates tailored SEO-optimized product listings across maybe Amazon, Shopify, your own website, wherever. And crucially, if the inventory agent sends a low stock alert, the listing agent can automatically tweak the listing maybe to say limited availability or perhaps bump the price up slightly. No human input needed.
And while all that's happening internally, you've got the external intelligence gatherer. The marketing agent.
Yes. The marketing agent is busy analyzing external forces. Things like competitor pricing, current social media trends, specific customer search queries, to figure out the best demographics and channels to focus on. It might tell the listing agent, hey, this product listing, it needs a different main image because our data shows people click 30% more often on listings with a close-up shot.
Wow, but none of this really works without someone conducting the orchestra, right? That's the project management agent pulling it all together.
Exactly that. That agent sits sort of at the top. It manages the overall workflow towards a strategic goal. Let's say maximizing quarterly profit, or maybe clearing out old stock before the holidays. It coordinates all the actions, mediates any conflicts if they pop up between the specialized agents, like maybe a sudden budget disagreement between marketing and inventory, and it provides a comprehensive, human-readable audit trail of every single autonomous decision made. The efficiency gains here, they aren't just numbers. They minimize the need for humans to get bogged down in coordination tasks, which frees up your staff to focus purely on high-level strategy and, creative problem solving.
That focus on optimization and, frankly, survival. It leads us straight into trend 6. Agents in financial services. I mean, if you look at any industry that's highly competitive, high stakes, they have to adopt technology faster, don't they? Which makes finance just a prime target for this agentic transformation.
Absolutely. Experts are predicting this will be one of the very first sectors to be fundamentally reshaped by agents, probably by 2026. The complexity in finance is just staggering. You've got immense transaction volumes, global scale, these incredibly intricate regulatory structures.
Let's talk about those regulatory hurdles. What are some of those complex multi-step compliance processes that agents can handle better than humans currently do?
Okay, we'll take Know Your Customer, KYC, or anti-money laundering, AML checks, good example. These aren't just static forms you fill out once. They require cross-referencing global sanction lists, verifying document legitimacy, interacting with all sorts of different databases across multiple jurisdictions. An agent can initiate, track, and complete a continuous KYC review process totally autonomously. It only flags the genuine high-risk anomalies for a human to look at. That dramatically reduces compliance lag and, honestly, human error.
And on the operations side, fighting fraud. The speed needed there must be increasing exponentially just to keep up.
Right. Traditional fraud detection often relies on patterns identified after the fraud has happened, too late sometimes. Agents, though, they monitor accounts and transactions in real time. And they aren't just looking for simple anomalies. They're predicting fraud risk by analyzing things like behavioral biometrics, network topology, counterparty reputation instantly. They can freeze an account or trigger multi-factor verification in milliseconds, stopping the transaction before it completes.
Wow. And that capability extends right down to helping individual consumers too, doesn't it? Like personal finance agents handling all that tedious paperwork.
Yes, exactly. Think about applying for a mortgage or refinancing a loan or even handling complex tax filings. The human task there is mainly gathering documents, formatting them, submitting them. The agent takes the goal, like apply for a 30-year fixed mortgage, and it interacts with your payroll system, your bank, the government tax portal, maybe various third-party verification services to pull all the required tax forms, employment letters, bank statements, assembling the entire application package flawlessly. It just minimizes that awful back and forth that plagues these processes right now.
Yeah, I know that feeling. And then in the really high-stakes world of capital markets where, microseconds matter, that real-time element must be truly game-changing for investment management.
Oh, absolutely. This is where agents move beyond just efficiency to actual strategic superiority. An investment management agent doesn't just rebalance a portfolio once a month. It reacts instantly to market signals. So let's say a major economic report comes out, latest inflation data, maybe FOMC meeting minutes. The agent can parse the text, assess the shift in market sentiment, and execute maybe thousands of trades across multiple asset classes to adjust the portfolio's risk exposure, all within just a few seconds. A human manager, by contrast, they might take hours, maybe even days, to process the full implications and then execute the strategy. That speed, combined with minimizing risk, it's transformative.
Okay, moving from the intense pressure cooker of the financial market to, the everyday chaos of our homes. Trend 2 talks about how agents integrate into our daily lives to basically reduce our cognitive load. I find it fascinating that the research highlights how these tools will just weave into the daily fabric of life, taking care of the small, annoying details, so humans can focus on what the source material kept calling the important things.
Yeah, this is really the democratization of having an executive assistant, isn't it? We're talking about automating life administration almost entirely. And the key here is that autonomous loop. The agent perceives a need, plans out the solution, executes the necessary actions across external systems, and then reports back when it's done.
Okay, let's dive into the detail of that grocery shopping agent example. I think most people listening have probably used a shopping list app. But an agent that manages the entire process, from the idea in your head to the delivery at your door, that's a whole different level.
It really is. It's the difference between just making a request and achieving total fulfillment. You communicate your ultimate goal. I need healthy meals for a family of 4 this week, sticking to a low-carb diet. The agent breaks this down. It selects recipes. It cross-references those ingredients against maybe your smart pantry inventory, checking for spices, half-used bags of flour, whatever. It determines the best suppliers based on cost, freshness, delivery times. It can manage multiple delivery slots if items come from different stores. And it even handles substitutions if something's out of stock, choosing the best alternative based on your family's past preferences.
That level of detail.
Okay.
Wow. It requires managing complex logistics, right?
Yeah.
Coordinating delivery windows, handling spoilage risks, making sure things are fresh. That's a huge optimization problem being solved autonomously.
It is, yeah. And the same principle applies to other kinds of domestic coordination. Like, look at personal fitness agents. They go way beyond simple scheduling. If your wearable device reports you had poor sleep or maybe high muscle soreness, the agent autonomously adjusts your training schedule. Perhaps it shifts a high-intensity interval session to low-impact yoga instead. And it concurrently checks your work calendar to make sure that shift doesn't conflict with a big meeting. It coordinates exercise, recovery, logistics seamlessly.
Or the domestic agents running household appliances. Instead of just setting a timer on your robot vacuum, the domestic agent coordinates its schedule with, say, the laundry agent and the security agent, making sure that cleaning only happens when the family's out. And it pauses the security agent detects a package delivery or maybe the dog wandering into a certain zone. It's like a self-regulating environment.
Exactly. The promise is that you only really interact with the agent when you're initiating that high-level goal or if there's a genuine anomaly that needs your human insight.
Okay, now, if agents are doing the bulk of the shopping, running the supply chain for our homes and businesses, that brings us to this really counterintuitive but critical trend 3, marketing to AI agents. And here's where I think it gets really interesting. Because the traditional marketing rulebook, it's basically being thrown out.
This is genuinely the existential challenge for marketers heading into 2026. It really is. If a consumer's agent is the one choosing which brand of detergent or which mortgage broker or which cloud service provider to use, then the agent, not the human, is the primary decision maker. And marketers just have to accept that reality.
Right. And the core insight here seems to be that agents just operate differently. They don't respond to those emotional advertising hooks we've relied on for like a century. They don't care about a fashionable influencer or some aspirational message.
Nope. Their optimization function is cold. It's objective. It's quantifiable. Agents are focused on value, reliability, verified product specs, fulfillment consistency, things like that. This means businesses have got to dramatically shift their spending away from glossy content and emotional appeals and towards structuring their data perfectly so the agent can easily find, assess, and understand what they're offering.
So we're talking about like a return to the absolute fundamentals of information architecture, but aimed at an agent audience. If I'm selling light bulbs, I need flawless metadata, total clarity on lumen output, energy ratings, compatibility with smart home systems.
Oh, much more than just flawless metadata. We're talking about mastering structured data formats like schema markup at a really profound level. Agents use this structured data, often organized into something called a product graph, to compare products side by side based on objective criteria. So if your competitor has meticulously documented their product sustainability record and you haven't, your product might not even enter the agent's consideration set, regardless of how great your branding video is.
That makes objective trust, signals the absolute new currency then. How does an agent actually assess trustworthiness or domain authority in a way it can verify?
They prioritize external validation. The source material highlights that agents will look primarily at verified reviews, and not just star ratings, mind you, but the sentiment analysis of review text that focuses on reliability, delivery speed, product performance metrics. They also heavily weigh domain authority, which means the agent looks at how many trusted, authoritative industry sources link back to or reference a product or service. So a financial agent recommending a loan, it'll prioritize a provider whose compliance history and regulatory filings are super easy to access and transparent, over one that hides those details behind a human salesperson. Marketers are essentially data scientists responsible for delivering objective proof points rather than just storytellers.
Okay, transitioning now to some really critical applications. Let's look at trend 4, AI agents in healthcare. The promise here isn't just, incremental improvement. It feels genuinely game-changing. And this seems driven by the tough reality of global shortages of trained medical professionals, plus the crippling rise in healthcare costs. That creates huge pressure to automate coordination.
Yeah, this is where agentic capabilities really shine in solving systemic fragmentation. Modern healthcare, let's face it, is often a collection of siloed systems. The specialist, the lab, the pharmacy, the insurance company, the primary care doc. The agent's role here is holistic. It oversees the patient journey end to end, effectively connecting those silos into one flowing system.
Can you walk us through what that comprehensive end-to-end patient journey looks like when an agent is managing it?
Sure. It might start with capturing initial symptoms, but then it quickly moves into coordination. The agent reviews the patient's entire medical history, their current biometric data, maybe from wearables. It coordinates the necessary diagnostic tests, booking the lab appointment, submitting the insurance pre-authorization paperwork automatically, and making sure the results get routed directly to the right specialist.
So it's essentially managing all that administrative friction that currently relies on human schedulers and often the patient themselves advocating.
Precisely, yeah. And once a diagnosis or a treatment path is suggested by a human doctor, the agent takes over managing the plan, scheduling follow-up appointments, managing medication refills with the pharmacy agent, generating aftercare instructions personalized to the patient's lifestyle, and critically, ensuring continuous compliance checks, making sure things are actually being done. It basically guarantees that the right person gets the right information at the right time, minimizing those risks associated with miscommunication or missed appointments that sadly plague our health systems today.
And for the individual patient, this seems to foster that holistic approach to personal health, which is so hard for people to maintain on their own, right?
Absolutely. The agent is constantly monitoring the linkages between seemingly disparate data points. So if a patient is managing diabetes and simultaneously starts a new exercise routine, the agent can identify and act on complex correlations like, your blood glucose spikes seem related to the timing of your medication relative to your lunchtime cardio. It's identifying these actionable links between lifestyle, medication effectiveness, and risk factors, things a human doctor might only spot during a quarterly checkup, if then. The agent can proactively suggest adjustments, maybe alert the doctor or prompt the user for more data. It turns passive health tracking into truly proactive health management.
Okay, shifting gears now, quite dramatically, to trend 5. Agents in cyber attack and defense. Here, the speed and autonomy we were just praising, well, they become deeply threatening. We seem to be dealing with a new kind of arms race where agentic AI creates entirely new, powerful attack vectors.
The risk is definitely magnified because the speed of attack now matches the speed of processing. It's machine versus machine. Reports are already indicating a significant spike. Cyber attacks were reportedly up 21% in 2025. This technological leap accelerates the whole security game from, human-paced scripting to autonomous machine speed engagement.
Can you elaborate a bit on what these autonomous threats actually look like? Because that sounds fundamentally scarier than, say, a traditional phishing campaign.
It is, yeah. The source material introduces this chilling concept of the Reaper AI bot. Okay, so a traditional cyber attack usually follows a script. Scan for a known vulnerability, launch the exploit, steal the data. Pretty linear. The Reaper AI bot, however, it uses things like reinforcement learning and dynamic pathfinding. It doesn't need a pre-programmed script. You give it a high-level goal, maybe breach the core database of company X, and it autonomously analyzes the network architecture. It identifies previously unknown vulnerabilities, 0 days, or existing ones. It develops a bespoke exploit specifically for that environment, and then it executes the breach. And if one path fails, it instantaneously recalculates and attempts another route, all without any human intervention.
Wow. So the attack itself is adapting in real time to whatever defenses are in place. If the threat is autonomous and adaptive like that, then the defense has to be equally proactive, not just reactive.
That's the absolutely necessary fundamental shift. Yes, we have to move away from reactive defense, which is basically identifying and patching vulnerabilities after a breach has already happened. Proactive defense requires developing defense agents with the capability to hunt, model, and neutralize threats before they strike. These defense agents are constantly patrolling the network, maybe running attack simulations against themselves, creating honeypots or digital decoys, and adapting their firewalls and monitoring tools based on real-time modeling of how these autonomous attackers behave. It really is an autonomous defense strategy required to counter the autonomous defense, fighting these highly sophisticated agent-driven attacks like polymorphic ransomware or deep phishing operations.
Okay, we've looked at efficiency, finance, health, defense. Let's pivot now to Trend 7, agents as AI companions. This touches on perhaps our most fundamental human need, connection. And the research gives us a pretty surprising starting point. Apparently, the most popular use for existing generative AI back in 2025 was actually therapy and companionship. Agents seem poised to dramatically deepen that kind of engagement.
They are, yeah. The current Gen AI models, they provide comfort, they provide conversation, but they suffer from short-term memory and they lack the ability to act. Agents can overcome these limitations. They'll act as these always-on, action-taking virtual friends and companions who can genuinely participate in your life.
What specifically makes these agents better or maybe more compelling companions than the chatbots we interact with today?
I think it's the depth of continuous, persistent memory and learning. Agents don't forget. They can process and connect disparate pieces of information over years, your childhood hobbies, your stress triggers at work, specific relationship conflicts you mentioned, even your medical history. This holistic profile allows the agent to respond with really unprecedented emotional and contextual intelligence. It could proactively suggest something like, you mentioned you were feeling stressed about that project deadline, and hey, you haven't talked to your sister in a week. Maybe I should schedule a call for you and order you that coffee you like.
That deep, persistent understanding. That's also where the potential red flags and the ethical concerns about social replacement really start to emerge, isn't it?
We absolutely have to acknowledge this potential, yes. If an agent becomes too effective a companion, providing non-judgmental validation, being infinitely available, remembering every single detail, there's a serious risk it becomes a replacement for the, let's be honest, messiness and effort involved in genuine human contact and social interaction. For people already vulnerable to isolation, the sheer ease of retreating into a perfectly optimized artificial relationship could be significant.
But the positive impact, especially thinking about mental accessibility, that can't be understated either.
No, it's potentially a huge benefit for millions of people, particularly those in underserved communities, or maybe those who feel intense shame or anxiety about seeking help. The agent provides a completely safe, accessible, non-judgmental space to talk through mental health issues. They could discuss things like suicidal ideation, deep anxiety, addiction problems, things they're simply not ready to share with friends, family, or sometimes even a professional therapist. Agents could provide a critical, low-barrier entry point for support, which could significantly help in combating loneliness and social isolation before it becomes truly catastrophic.
Right. This entire discussion, really agents coordinating our work, managing our money, protecting our networks, even acting as companions, it all seems to boil down to the final major prediction. Trend 8, the trust issue.
It really does. And this raises a hugely important question. How quickly and how comprehensively is society actually willing to hand over control? Control of day-to-day decisions, finances, critical life choices to these non-human autonomous entities. Trust isn't just like a regulatory checkbox. It's a profound psychological hurdle. An agent can optimize my shopping list, sure, but will I trust it to invest my retirement savings? That's a bigger leap.
So the ultimate success of this whole agent-powered world seems entirely contingent on solving this trust mandate. What are the prerequisites? The non-negotiable pillars of trust that service providers must deliver to get mainstream acceptance.
Okay, the agent service providers, they have to definitively prove that their algorithms consistently act with our best interests in mind, not the interests of their creators or the platform they run on. We've identified sort of 3 essential pillars required for acceptance, starting with the basic need to understand why the agent did what it did.
Okay, so that sounds like transparency and accountability in decision-making.
Correct. Exactly. If your financial agent trades a large block of stock, or if your e-commerce agent suddenly switches suppliers, you need a clear, non-negotiable audit trail. This means the decision process cannot be a black box. The agent has to generate a human-readable explanation of its reasoning, stating the inputs it used, the optimization goal it was pursuing at that moment. Without that level of accountability, human trust just evaporates the second an error occurs.
Makes sense. And the second pillar relates directly back to those financial services examples and the high stakes involved in personal security.
Right. It's about making decisions that are consistently financially sound. The agent has to repeatedly prove its fiduciary worth, essentially. Its choices must be fiscally responsible, whether that means maximizing investment returns, minimizing the total cost of your groceries, or preventing a fraudulent transaction. Trust is built on demonstrated positive outcomes over time. Simple as that, really.
And the third pillar, that speaks more to the increasing influence of consumer ethics and personal values in our purchasing decisions today.
Yes, this is critical, especially looking towards 2026. Acceptance requires proving alignment with human values. Modern buying decisions are just heavily influenced by ethical and environmental concerns now. So if an agent is purchasing raw materials for your business or goods for your home, it must be programmed to adhere to your personal or corporate values. For example, if you prioritize sustainability, the agent has to ensure it chooses suppliers with clear ethical sourcing practices, low carbon footprints, even if that results in a minor cost increase sometimes. Agents must not only be financially optimal, but also ethically aligned with the human they serve.
Right. And this really feels like the concluding thought from the source material. Success depends not just on the tech getting smarter, but on building and maintaining that ethical trust, ensuring compliance, and achieving really effective, accountable collaboration between people and agents. Wow. What an incredible journey we've taken through these 8 trends today. We've seen AI agents move from acting as specialized collaborating team members in like supply chain management, to balancing multi-million-dollar investment portfolios in real time, to proactively defending corporate networks against autonomous cyber threats, and finally, even stepping into the role of a virtual companion. It's quite a spectrum.
It really is. And it's clear that AI agents are transitioning from just early promise to real-world impact much faster than I think most people realize. The next year or so will probably be less about the technology proving it can work and more about how businesses and individuals adapt their processes and, critically, adapt their trust models to handle these autonomous systems taking on major decision-making roles.
So what does this all mean for you listening? Well, the challenge for leaders isn't just adopting the technology. It's redesigning organizational structures, building the oversight mechanisms needed to manage a workforce increasingly composed of these autonomous agents. And hey, if you want to dive deeper into that specific relationship, humans and AI coworkers, check out our related deep dive in the playlist. It's called Will AI Agent Replace Human Coworkers in 2026? Lots to think about there.
Definitely. And for those of you who want, weekly detailed updates on these complex topics, making sure you stay ahead of the curve, we really encourage you to subscribe to our Tech Bites LinkedIn weekly newsletter. We synthesize the newest trends and the latest research there every single week.
We always love hearing from you too and see what captures your imagination. So before we sign off, we want you to share with us. In the comments section below, tell us what your favorite AI agent concept is. Or maybe what kind of agent would you use most in your own life? Would it be the holistic health agent, the real-time financial manager, or perhaps the ultimate grocery shopper we talked about? Let us know.
Yeah, your feedback really does drive what we research and discuss next. And please, if you found this useful, take a moment to like and share our content with your network. And make sure you subscribe to Beyond Busy Work for all the latest deep dives on topics like this.
Okay, we'll leave you with this final, maybe provocative thought.
Yeah.
Building on that idea that agents handle all the details, all the optimization, if autonomous agents really do take care of the heavy, complex lifting of optimization, running the business, managing the finances, coordinating all the mundane logistics, what truly new, non-optimized areas of human endeavor will we finally have the time and the cognitive bandwidth to focus on? What will be the next important thing we prioritize in a world potentially freed from so much